Origin gents. Bit different. Usually do it sometime. I like videos like this. How strong is the United States military? Why is the US military the strongest? Graph style video where they're going to talk about why the strongest military on the planet is the strongest. Let's waste one.
Why is the US military the strongest? Great military powers have been appearing and disappearing since the beginning of history. Now is the time for the United States
I was like, what the fuck? Why are you showing Romans and Greek? But okay.
of America to be the leader in military might. But what makes it so powerful? Will its power remain undisputed? Are there already signs of weakness? Would it really stand in a conflict with potential rivals like China or Russia? To find out, we should analyse
What kind of question is this? You talk like this is some new rising power. No, the question should be about China. Would China be able to stand against USA? USA has been a global power since 8-9 decades now, since World War II, probably even before that.
why exactly the US military is considered the strongest. The numbers. The US has 1,400,000 active military personnel.
That is an insane thing. That is equal to India. And you should know how stupid that is. Since India is 4 times as bigger in population than USA. USA is 300-400 million. India is 1.4 billion. Near the same amount of military personnel. That's big.
This figure places it in third place in this category. China has the largest army with slightly above 2 million soldiers, while India comes in second place. This doesn't sound that impressive, but what makes the US military stand out is not necessarily the raw number of men. The US has unquestionable air supremacy. The US military is number one in air power, with 13,264 total.
Damn. Okay, how old is this video? I think the Russia number can't be this now. Obviously. Yeah, US military. Look, one thing about USA is when it comes to Air Force, they have to be better since geographically where they are. This is why they have so many bases. So that number is ridiculous, but that just shows how powerful USA is.
Military aircraft, a total that is greater than the other 5 greatest air forces combined. 2,085 are air-to-air fighters, 715 ground attack aircraft, 945 transportation aircraft, 5,768 helicopters, and 967 attack helicopters.
For some reason, India was deleted in that conversation. What the fuck? Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is an old video because India acquired a lot of attack helicopters from America. I'm pretty sure Apaches and things.
The US is number one in each aircraft category except for air-to-ground forces, where it's slightly topped by Russia. The US has a powerful navy that is designed to work in conjunction with its air forces. It has 20 aircraft carriers, 11 are regular fixed-wing carriers, while 9 are capable of hosting only helicopters and short takeoff planes like the F-35B. This is almost half of the world's total number of aircraft carriers, while most of the others belong to allied countries. If we take into
India has 2. How old is this video? Japan has 4. Alright, France, that makes sense. Does that make sense? Is France known for its navy? I don't know. Why the fuck UK is there? Oh my god. Oh, how mighty have fallen. The mightiest navy of all time, United Kingdom, is here. There was a time when nobody could touch England. And it's not even in top 3. You assume if they've fallen down, at least they'll be in top 3. Come on.
To account only regular fixed-wing aircraft capacity, the total combined...
I know that's about aircraft carriers, not the whole navy, but still, they should be top there. Come on.
Space of the US aircraft carriers is over twice that of all the other nations combined. To complement this, the US Navy has the greatest number of destroyers and ranks 3rd in the number of submarines. The numbers of the US naval strength are a bit tricky. If we count the total number of naval assets, the US falls in 4th place, behind Russia and China, and even behind North Korea, that boasts a surprising 1st place. However, in case of a maritime conflict, it would still be hard to counter the power of the US Navy, supported by
How that happened? What the
The US falls in 4th place, behind.
What do you mean by Navy asset? How does North Korea has that much? What is happening right now? Navy. How does Thailand, Egypt, Iran has more naval asset than India? Again, what is happening right now? All right. Where did North Korea sneak in? I didn't see that
Behind
coming.
Russia and China, and even behind North Korea, that boasts a surprising 1st place. However, in case of a maritime conflict, it would still be hard to counter the power of the US Navy, supported by overwhelming air supremacy and allied forces. Land power. The US is slightly behind Russia regarding raw numbers. American ground forces number 6,289 tanks, 39,000 armoured vehicles.
What the fuck is that? What the fuck?
American ground forces number 6,000.
How the fuck Russia has 13,000? To me, it feels like US had, like discards certain old tanks and they just remove it from the numbers. Russia just keeps it. Because that number doesn't make sense. USA isn't just rich. USA is a million times richer than anything else, including Russia. How does Russia have 13,000 tanks where USA has 6,000? That doesn't make sense. But yeah, with the Ukraine war, we knew like how many Russian tanks actually worked. I mean, come on. So that's a warped number there.
1,289 tanks.
Egypt.
39,000 armoured vehicles. 1,465.
Okay, where is Egypt coming from? There's constantly Egypt there. I did not see that fucking thing coming. What, are you surprised? Why am I surprised? Is Egypt a real player? I didn't see that coming.
Self-propelled artillery and 1,366 rocket projectors. However, Russia has a lot of outdated vehicles with questionable performance in case of a real conflict. Meanwhile, the US military has a broad technological edge. The US has 5,800 nuclear warheads that make it the world's 2nd largest in nuclear war power. In this video, we're analysing the conventional military strength, but it can't be denied that a nuclear arsenal does bring a certain status.
Look, man, nuclear bombs are like giving knife to, like kids or babies. A knife is a knife. So like any knife is too many knives. So let's not even talk about nukes because any country that has like few hundred, that is already too much. So like Pakistan, India, China, Russia, USA, they all have too many nukes. At that point, none of the shit works.
Even if things don't escalate to a full-blown nuclear war, it's intimidating to any country to be armoured with such nuclear power. The quality. The US Army consists entirely of trained professionals, and many have real combat experience. Since the beginning of this century, the US has been involved in military conflicts in Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Somalia, Libya, Uganda and Yemen. While other countries still rely on conscripts to fill the numbers, the US can field an army of well-trained, experienced professionals. The equipment, the military assets and the technology used in combat have excellent quality. This is the defining reason why US casualties are usually fewer than those of their adversaries. A strong ability to project power is another defining trait of the United States military. Size, technology and experience are nothing if you can't reach the enemy. Power projection is the ability of a state to deploy and sustain forces outside its territory. Only a few states are capable to overcome the difficulties that involve power projection, and the US excels at it. This is made possible by several factors. The home base of the US is safe. The neighbouring countries are friendly. Potential enemies are far away. The large landmass makes it a country that is hard to invade. It also has coastlines along 2 oceans and strategic islands that hold military bases. The US forces can reach far, fast, and deploy great numbers of forces supported by the enforcement of air and sea superiority, combined with excellent transportation capabilities. Even if it doesn't engage in combat,
C-130.
the US can enforce naval and air blockades that can severely cripple an enemy's economy. The US has by far the largest network of military bases operating outside of its territory. Information regarding the exact number and location of such bases involves classified information, so we can only estimate the total extent of the overseas military presence. Back in 2013, the Pentagon stated that there were around 600 military bases overseas. A rough
Yeah, for example, there are not 600 countries. Close to 200 probably, and there are 600 bases. So more than one at one place, probably. Yeah. If people have 10 bases around the planet, it's like, yeah, I have proper hubs. Imagine this in an open world video game where you have to unlock safe houses like Dying Light. The game is fun, and then you unlock one by one safe houses. You're like, this is safe now. I can move around with because of the safe houses. US has 600 of them around the planet if they're playing Dying Light with an actual globe. Yeah, that alone is overpower.
estimate would be around 1,000 overseas US military compounds. Approximately 165,000 military personnel is stationed outside the United States. This doesn't include areas of conflict such as Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The US has significant forces deployed in around 55 countries and autonomous territories. It is also estimated that more than 150 countries have a certain degree of US military presence. Alliances. The United States can rely on a vast network of alliances. It is the de facto leader of NATO, the world's strongest military alliance. 18 other countries are designated as major non-NATO allies. This list includes countries like Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Thailand, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Egypt, Israel, Argentina, and Brazil. Taiwan's status is a bit more complicated.
Yeah, isn't that something that Pakistan is the ally? The same place who was hiding your number one enemy who did 9/11. Yeah.
And it can be considered
This is why some people question like, was 9/11 inside job because of this shit?
de facto ally. Some countries are not formal allies but have a strong strategic partnership with the US. One notable example is India, that participates in regular military drills together with US forces and some of its allies.
I mean,
Economy.
it's literally the largest democracy on the planet just by numbers, so democratic USA, it just makes sense. But obviously there's gonna be times when two are not gonna align on everything. It doesn't have to. Like, imagine India is your friend that you don't just like hang around all the time, but it's a friend. You meet every once a month and it just works. You like each other that enough. That type of shit.
Modern warfare is sustained in the long term by two main factors: the capacity to produce military equipment and the capacity to spend money on defence. American defence companies are the indisputable top producers of weaponry. Among the world's top 10 defence suppliers, 5 of them are American.
Lockheed is number one. Boeing, okay. Raytheon makes sense. BAE Systems, UK sneaked in, okay. Northrop, General Dynamics, of course. Airbus, I mean, yeah. I didn't know Airbus was a military company, but okay. I mean, they would be. Why would they not? Okay. Thales, France. I guess the same people who makes the planes and things. Okay. Leonardo, Italy. Where the fuck is Germany? Germany is not even in the list. How did that happen? German engineering, third biggest economy. How is Germany not in this list? Okay.
Companies. Lockheed Martin is the biggest. It reported a revenue of almost 60 billion US dollars in 2019. That's close to Russia's entire annual military spending. The strength of the US military is also.
I mean, I get it. But at the same time, tech companies, 60 billion is nothing in a year revenue. So when people say like US is spending too much in defense and US is nothing but a defense company and everything US does is to feed defense company. Not really. If your biggest defense company only makes 60 billion a year, there's literally drop in the bucket when it comes to tech like Microsoft, Apple and shit like that. So US is not just a defense company, is it? It's not just for what is it, military industrial complex. It's not just for that. That is not your bread and butter, is it? There's a reason why Apple, Microsoft, they literally run your economies. It's not the defense companies.
Entire annual military spending. The strength of the US military is also due to its huge military budget. In 2019, spending on the US military was a whopping $732 billion.
Oh, okay. First is US military. China is 261. I feel like China is lying or like omitting its spending. It's probably much higher than that. And not to mention, Chinese things are cheaper, labor is cheap, local materials are cheap. So yeah, it's gonna be much higher than that. India is 71, but now it's like 150 or something because of the recent things that happen. They probably increased it like 2-3 folds and even more. They're gonna be much higher than that. Isn't Russia 200 billion, or did that happen after the war? This is an old video, I'm guessing. So yeah, China is probably much higher. India is slightly higher than it looks because again, Indian labor is cheap, Indian goods are cheap. So you have to manage for that.
Billion US dollars. That's almost 3 times more than China, the world's second largest military spender, and is roughly 1/3 of the entire world's defense budget. While Russia is commonly regarded as the second most powerful army in the world, its budget consists of only $65 billion. Arguably, there is an aspect of purchasing power. For example, it's cheaper to pay a Russian or Chinese soldier, but the cost of high-quality military equipment is still the same around the world. The reason that the US can afford such an enormous military budget is...
I'm not so sure about the material thing, because most of the things, military things, require rare earth materials for ammunition, for munitions, and for electronic things like chips and everything. China is the only place you would get it. China can get things cheaper because it's their country and their communist country. They can just take it for, they probably have like companies, that is government companies, who extract these things. And they just secured it for the, good of the country, because that's how communism works. Right? So it's not just cheaper, it's going to be insanely cheap for China to acquire this material because it's their material in China.
Is that it's supported by a strong economy. America has been the world's largest economy since 1871. Its nominal GDP is currently 21.44 trillion US dollars. This is almost a quarter of the global economy, and it's backed with plenty of natural resources, advanced infrastructure, and technology. Besides the ability to sustain an enormous defense budget, the US often uses its economic strength as a weapon by enforcing economic sanctions. Soft factors. Soft power is another factor that comes into play when assessing a country's might. The US is world-beating in culture, education, and technology. American pop culture has an enormous influence, and this won't change anytime soon. America also...
not at education, like which number USA falls on when it comes to education, let's be honest. So, yeah. But yeah, obviously the top universities and in USA, which is like weird factor when you realize. But a lot of people like who need education, that's the mentality. And yet there are really smartest people who go to smartest university, which is in USA.
Hosts most of the world's top-ranking universities with a record number of international students. The US leads the world of technology and digitalization as home to the world's most influential tech companies like Apple.
That is the problem, right? Like USA doesn't fall really high on education, overall education, because people just don't want to do it. And yet you have the highest tier universities, but they're filled with like foreigners because your own people don't want to do it. It's a weird element, right? I hope that changes in the future, because you don't want that think tank to stop. And especially Trump, no foreigners, immigration stop. Like, okay, how are you going to get thinking mind if you're going to do that?
Google, Microsoft, and Facebook. It's easy to think that this doesn't seem important in warfare. But imagine an enemy soldier that would have to attack the country where his cousin studies, the country of his favourite music band, the country of his favourite actors from the movie that he watches on an American media platform like YouTube.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna give a fuck. This point don't matter really that much. Look at the Russia and Ukraine thing. How many Ukrainians are in Russia and how many Russians are in Ukraine? The war is still happening. Yeah, the war is at such a level that none of this shit matters.
Or an American smartphone with American software. Finally, there is another critical aspect.
That's a stupid point.
It is called the will to fight. And this is the single most important factor in war. The will to fight is the disposition to engage in combat, the determination to keep fighting even when facing precarious odds, and finally to win. At an individual level.
Yeah, but also like future Gen Zs. So like future army, I don't know about that. Yeah, people PlayStation 5 playing Gen Zs with streamers and whatever, like that Twitch streamer shit. They are the same people who are going to be in military, so I don't know.
A soldier with a low will to fight will avoid engagement with the enemy and is likely to flee when things get tough. A battle is won when the enemy's will to fight is broken. Wars don't end when one military destroys the other. Wars end when one side grows weary of fighting, doesn't see any further purpose in the continuation of the conflict, and gives up.
Again, I'm not so sure about that point too. I mean, there is an element of that, sure. Morale breaks down, sure, but the fighting doesn't stop. Again, look at the Russia-Ukraine thing. Look at any war of attrition. Fighting just doesn't stop like that. There is much more layers put on top of it that give enough force to people to fight.
The national will to fight is what keeps a nation fighting. This is commonly linked to a sense of patriotism, national identity, and motivation generated by the idea that one fights for what is right. In the past, this has been a strong point of the US, as Americans have been fighting against dictators and terrorists that lacked concern for human life and dignity. In contrast, the USA has been regarded as a country that embodies values of freedom, democracy, and rule of law. It was the country that defined such values. Even more, it was the country that was willing to fight for these values. The American soldier has been motivated by a sense of moral supremacy rooted in the country's Christian tradition. However, America doesn't seem to be so cohesive in its values anymore. There are many factors intertwined that provoke this. You
know what? I'm gonna stop. If they themselves have to blur it out, I don't risk anything. I already think this is gonna be a problem. The way YouTube works. All right, this video I thought it's gonna be about graph. It was graph and hype talk as well. But all right, that makes sense. Yeah, Americans just judging from how things work and how history is. Americans are slightly more motivated than everybody else. If you're rich and you're living in a democracy where freedom is put on top, I know certain people are just already commenting, oh, freedom is put on top, this and that. Yeah, that's the core ideology. Whether it 100% works or not is a different thing. It works enough to works better than most countries. So when you have all that shit, yeah, you're going to defend it, right? You're going to have really high patriotism. Why would you not? Yeah, America is I don't see any other country coming close to this, even China. There are so many things that that are layered on top of it that makes America overpowered. Experience itself makes America overpowered. China can get really powerful. They don't have experience. When China was in conflict last time, okay. So there is that. But yeah. Alright, well, if you like my next one, subscribe and I'll see you next time.